Welcome to Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 302, State of Malware with Malwarebytes. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today is brought to you by Instant House Call, remote support that is easy for you and your customers to use. This is a must-have tool with features like on-demand for your break-fix customers and unattended for managed services. You can do automatic repairs with built-in software, and it will save you time and money when you're supporting your customers. Check it out for a free trial at instanthouseCall.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS. And also buy Reclaim Me Pro, the all-in-one highly configurable data recovery software for both beginners and experts. For a free 14-day trial, go to reclaimme-pro.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS for a 50% discount. All right, let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Michael Sherwood and Alex Smith from Malwarebytes. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Going
Awesome.
fantastic.
Good to have you all here. So John is not with us today. He is at his annual, what did he call it? Oh, yeah, TSO, which I had to, he's used a stupid acronym, so I had to ask what the heck the acronym stood for, because you know how I love those. I don't. Trans-Siberian Orchestra he goes to every year with his lovely wife, and that's just one of their outings. So that's where he's at today, enjoying that live festival type, Christmas type rocking music. So if you guys don't know about that, you can definitely check that out. They travel all over, and I've seen the show once, and it's just a phenomenal show. A lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do our tips and stories section because Michael has a good one. So I'm going to kick it off to you, Michael, and just let us know what you want to tell us.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so this is around the Marriott breach that's happened. So I think, you know, when the breaches happen, everybody kind of freaks out and is wondering, you know, is my data safe? Is my data stolen? What can I do to protect myself? And the quick answer is assume your data is always going to be stolen. So with that in mind, it's really good to have kind of a data strategy plan. And a couple of tips that I like to share is, you know, when you're signing up for sites, you know, really basic stuff, obviously password manager, two-factor, multi-factor authentication. But one you can actually take kind of a step further is making sure that you obfuscate any sort of data that you're sharing with that company. So even going as far as your screen name. So instead of it being Michael Sherwood, you know, at US Bank or something like that, make that a random, you know, hexadecimal username, obviously a very strong password. And then even on your security questions, if they don't offer two-factor, make all of those up. So even though it says what's your favorite food, where did you grow up, what was your first school, completely randomize all of those answers with easy hexadecimal passwords that you can store in your manager. Just a tiny little simple thing. So if your data does get stolen, it's mixed up a little bit, even if they get a hold of it.
That's awesome advice. And I love that you're down to earth. You know, let's not freak out. Let's handle this problem accordingly. And I think one of the biggest problems we have in our business anyways, for those of us that are aware of this and are geeky enough to basically go out there and grab a password manager, those are invaluable. There's no way I could remember 300 passwords. I don't really care if somebody gets my password because I'm just going to go in and change it and boom, done. But a lot of times for our customers, it is like sticking a fork in your eye to get a customer to basically say, yeah, I'm going to use a password manager because it makes sense. They don't want to do that. I've seen everything from the Excel documents to they are locked.
Those are very secure.
Yeah, very secure. So there's a lot of things out there that just don't make a lot of sense. And hopefully we can, especially with these breaches in the future, let our customers know about what's going on and what are some of the things that they can do to stop some of the problems.
Yep.
But yeah, I've told people for years, if you're on the internet, your stuff is out there. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. If you don't want to be on the internet, it's too late because you already went on the internet once, you're done. I remember when the internet first became this bigger thing, and a lot of the older people older than me, would say that, oh, I don't spend any money on the internet. I don't use my credit card on the internet. That can get stolen. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Let's hold on here. So let's take some common sense. So when you go to a restaurant with your wife, you sit down and you have a nice meal, and you see some snot-nosed kid, usually your waiter or waitress, and you hand them your credit card, and they take that credit card and they go in the back room What is the potential of them being able to grab the information off
Yep.
there to be able to use it?
Very high.
Very high. No different than even people. Well, I write checks. Okay.
Even worse.
It is worse because a lot of people don't realize it. Not everybody uses checks, but man, when you can get a check, there's this magic fluid that you can basically erase the ink, change a couple things on there and make a check and go pass them off somewhere and use them to get whatever it is you want very quickly. And then you're in and out. And it's a lot of times a lot of that will be traceable to a certain extent, but some of it not as easy as a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So just take that common sense approach, like Michael's saying, and basically go out there, do the things that you need to do, not only to protect yourself, but also think about ways that you can protect your customer and get them to do some of the things that they should. And two-factor authentication should be on everything. There
Yep.
should be nothing out there that doesn't have two-factor. I know it's a pain, and every time I've got to restart a new computer and log into all my sites, it sucks. But it's better than having to spend all this money and time trying to get my data back from a data breach. And so, we don't want to deal with that. Okay, so here's my short little tip is that be careful when you're using a tool that's supposed to make your life easier in turning on some of its features without testing it out first. We all know this. I know this. I preach this. I tell you this all the time. Go out there and make sure you test before you put it into live practice. Well, I didn't do that. Was using my remote monitoring and management software, Ninja. And I was messing around with some of the policy settings, and I had clicked on a setting to basically update third-party software. Apparently, I wasn't paying attention because a couple days later, I got a call from all my managed clients telling me that, why are all these icons on my desktop? I'm like, oh, oh no. So basically, yes, somehow I clicked it to install all of these third-party software, VLC. I mean, nothing malicious or anything like that, just stuff that people use. But it was showing up on all these computers, so I had to go in. And here's what I don't understand. This is a little side tangent. They're all of those quietly installed, but about half of them would not quietly uninstall. In other words, I had to go in and remote into each machine and pull that stuff out. Yeah, my life sucked in the evenings for, a few days. That's all I'm going to say about that. So just be careful, test before you go out there and do something that's going to a piece of software that's supposed to make your life easier and it makes your life harder. You don't want that, especially when you're busy, this time of year and all that. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to get into our main topic. One thing I want to talk about today is TechCon Unplugged, September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Here's what you're going to get for your ticket price. Just got to get there, get your hotel room. Hotel rooms are $102 a night. Can't get no cheaper than that, man. All right. You are going to get all meals and snacks at this event. Why? Because we want to make sure that you're satisfied and ready to learn and ready to engage in the community, pulling all this information together. 2, you're going to get dinner at Dave and Buster's along with a game card to enjoy activities. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been at Dave and Buster's, but Dave and Buster's is a really cool place with video games that you can play. You can eat good food and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be provided as part of your ticket. But wait, there's more. You're also going to get good, wholesome IT content with community invested vendors. And what I mean by that is obviously we're going to produce content from the community that's going to help people in their businesses because we all can learn from each other. But the other part of that is having the community invested vendors. In other words, the people who actually care about you. I was going to use some other words, but we're going to use that. They actually care about you. Not unlike some of the others who don't really care about you. They're in it for the money. And we know who those are. But the ones we're bringing in are community invested. In other words, they care. They want to help you thrive in your business while they're thriving in their business. Again, the same things we talk about all the time, win-win situations. So that's what we're going to do. And here's what I'm encouraging everybody to do within the sound of my voice right now. Go to techconunplugged.com and get your tickets today. All right. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Malwarebytes endpoint protection and the lovely Tech Bench. So Michael, I'm gonna shoot it over to you since you seem to be the guy with a lot of words, and Alex and I are gonna just play some video games in the background and have fun while you're talking to the people. But go ahead and let us know kind of the direction that you want to go as far as talking about the different products and services, and then maybe we can also touch a little bit on malware. What the heck is that? It's changed from 20 years ago to today, obviously.
All right, I will try to give you plenty of words so so you can all get knowledgeable here. So yeah, so we've got a couple things going on at Malwarebytes, and some of the stuff that you heard about for the upcoming TechCon is exactly why we're on the show today. We really truly believe in investing in the community. Alex and myself, we're longtime technicians. Apparently, Alex is a better technician or geek than I am. I've learned that today. So thanks for that shout out. But we're really about creating solutions that you can use in your daily diagnostics, in your repairs, and maybe your pro action, maybe some of your RMMs. And what we're really trying to do is mature as an organization here. If you think of Malwarebytes in the early days, we were kind of some singular utilities, and then we had a proactive protection agent, and then we had version 2 and version 3, and then we got business, and now we kind of have a whole bunch of stuff. And we're really trying to cater towards the break fix, small mom and pop shops, break fix managed services, or even subscription services that you have. And we've got a variety of things. TechBench is one. We've got some tool sets. We've got some great pricing on our Malwarebytes 3 solution. And if you're looking to move into more managed stuff, our endpoint protection, we've got a great offering from a cloud perspective if that's what your client base is.
Okay. And I think that is a good overhead synopsis to start from. So, Alex, I want to let you get in here too. As far as and I think a lot of people have heard your story already, kind of where you guys came up from. And if you've ever met these guys, they are as real in real life as they are on these shows or any other show that you've heard them on. They're down to earth, man. They get it, and that is what is really cool about it. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and say, a few words about whatever it is you want to talk about today, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I guess kind of piggybacking on what Sherwood mentioned there, the kind of things that I bring to life at Malwarebytes is more specifically the Malwarebytes tool set. And what that is really designed for is to give, break fix or even, more MSP service plan-based businesses the ability to use a portable utility to diagnose, repair, and remediate Windows PCs. So we include a portable version of the latest version of our Malwarebytes engine in it. We also have this really cool thing that we call the Malwarebytes issue scanner that we include inside of it. And what that does is it actually goes to all these different parts inside of Windows and tries to identify actual problems and present them to technicians in a way that makes sense to them. And we actually profile every single version of Windows from Vista to the latest build of Windows 10 so that when we do find a problem and we offer a fix for it, it's the right fix for the right version of Windows that you're running the utility on. So that way you're not having to dig around and find out the right reg file you need. We're going to do all that kind of dirty work for you. And instead of trying to give you a bunch of checkboxes and make you guess what you need to do to fix a computer, we're going to actually see if that problem actually exists. And if it does, that's when we present the actual fix for you. And it houses that. It gives you the ability to bring in your own utilities to the user interface. So that way, if you have some other utility that you use a lot, you can bring it into the Malwarebytes toolset as well. So that way it kind of becomes your singular dashboard, so to speak, to run all of your portable utilities. And so that's kind of my favorite thing that I get to do here at Malwarebytes is make that toolset more awesome kind of all the time.
And that is what I like about you guys too, is that you're constantly improving and you actually do care about what the customer thinks and what's going to benefit the customer. So you guys are definitely always improving, always making changes, and that's all you can really ask for. Obviously not everything's going to be perfect, but that's okay because it's kind of it's a constant moving target, and we're chasing malware and things today to protect our customers. One of the things I will tell you that I'll be honest with you, I've been a malware Malwarebytes reseller for more years than I can count, probably since they started. But I never really ran it on my own system. I did sell some back in the day, but I will tell you this latest version, I actually run it on my own personal machine, which I don't normally do. Just because the built-in stuff seems to work fine for me, and it probably would. But as a layer of added protection, and again, eating my own dog food, I love to have that on and running. And I'll tell you, I keep it on and I run it because it is so light and it runs in the background, but you barely notice it. It doesn't hinder you in doing your day-to-day tasks. So that's one of the things that I really like about that. Now, let's go back to the tech bench though and talk about, obviously there are a lot of things that people need. We need a way to evaluate a computer that comes in the shop quickly. I was noticing, I went and watched Michael's a video today where he walks into a shop and has the nice young lady grab the laptop from him and, does his own little commercial. That's kind of cool.
She's on our team too.
I kind of figured, but and it's funny because I don't know where you guys, is that shop like set up at your place or what? Because
it is a shop right around the corner from my house here in Mountain View.
okay.
So it's a local shop that we hang out in, and they offered us their shop if we bought them some Hunan after work. So we had some great Chinese food and
Awesome.
use the shop for the afternoon.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, because I was noticing, I'm like going, wait, that's not like a stage set. That's actually a real computer shop. You could tell with the computers sideways, and I remember doing that back in the day. What I was surprised at, and I don't know how old the video is, but I was surprised at how many desktops are actually sitting up there.
Oh yeah, that was maybe a year ago now. But the market they're in is a very interesting market. So they've got a lot of Mac users, and then they have a ton of desktops. I don't know why in particular, but they seem to be a central location to drop off lots of Mac, iPhone, and bizarrely Windows desktops.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, it seems like as we've gone, over the last couple of years, it seems like there's less and less desktops. I still get them, but just not as many as I used to. A lot of people have bought cheap laptops, which that's a hard sell sometimes too, when somebody's getting a Black Friday sale and they get a $200 laptop. That's
Those are the worst.
Yeah. And I dropped it on the ground. Yeah, the hinges are broken. Can you fix this? No. I could put a bunch of glue and stuff on there, but yeah, it's going to cost more money to replace this plastic on here than it is for you just to go out and get let's get you a refurbished business laptop or whatever.
Exactly.
But no, that was a cool video to watch. And so obviously we want a quick way to be able to figure out what's going on our on our customer system. And I've said this back in the day, talking about malware and the things that I used to do when I first started. I would take anywhere from 12, well, probably not 12, 6 to 12 hours, let's say,
sure,
to do a virus removal. And you guys probably remember, guys both worked at Best Buy and whatnot. And back in the day, man, one of the things that my customers always told me back then was, man, this thing has never worked as good as it does now, even when I brought it home from the store. And I'm like going, but it was a lot of time sitting on the bench. Yeah. Well, nowadays, time is money, and time was money back then, but it was learning, and we were all geeky and we loved it. And speaking of, Sherwood was making we were talking about, there's a little inside joke, just so everybody knows. Before the show started, Alex and I were talking about gaming headsets and whatnot, and we were talking about different, processors and different things like that. And I knew Alex was probably a gamer, and I just made the side comment that I said, Michael, do you game? He's like, no. He goes, yeah, I didn't think you were as geeky as Alex. So he took a little offense to that and said, well, wait a minute. So he brought up some other issues. But anyways, all in fun. Obviously, being in this industry, we're all geeky to a certain extent. I just, it's like saying, I'm going to say this, I'm going to irritate some people right now. It's like saying console gamers are actually real gamers. They're not. They're wannabes. But anyways, I digress.
I probably shouldn't tell you I like console gaming then, huh?
There you go.
I'm a console gamer myself, so
I know, but it's not real gaming.
I know, I miss it. It's because the 4 and 5-year-old, they keep me from getting downstairs in my dungeon to game anymore. So I got to take it where I can get it.
I hear you. It's funny how many games we actually pull out on our phones now, and some of them are actually pretty fun. and they keep you engaged. It's pretty hilarious. All right. Anyways, so going back to the tech bench, but we want a way to easily be able to find out what's going on with that machine. You know, find out about the hard drive. We want to be able to do the things that we need to do. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and take that and talk about the different things that maybe the kind of overview of what the tech bench can do for the business owner, and then maybe Alex, you can kind of go in and get a little more down and dirty and talk about anything that's maybe missed or whatever.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things that we found out is we were, working with shops and just being, in the industry since, Windows 95, Windows NT, and all of those kind of, early Windows machines where it was a lot of manual work, and then you started working on some scripts, and then in the early 2000s, you had kind of that second wave of viruses, which was the spyware and adware of the world. And I don't want to say it was easier back then, but it was a little bit easier back then, to kind of handle that. It was a lot of point and click, and you could kind of take care of it. What we found is a lot of shops, I use a hospital analogy as kind of the best one, where somebody comes in for a headache and all of us are very excited. We're kind of that, elite surgeon. So immediately we take that person in for their headache and we get them into surgery, and we kind of start fixing it and doing what we're supposed to. What's happened in that process is we forgot to talk to the general doctor, we forgot to talk to the nurse, we forgot to talk to the insurance agent, and we forgot to talk to the triage nurse at the front desk to take our blood pressure. And so he said, well, is there a different way that we can do this? Not to try to reinvent the wheel, come up with a new diagnostic program, new Windows analysis program, but could we take some of those elements from the triage perspective, do it in 10 or 15 seconds, and at least give you a guiding principle of where you want to start? And it's designed to run the inform while you're actually talking to your customer. So as they're trying to tell you, here's what I think is going on. I've got malware, I've got a virus, I've been hacked, all those traditional words that they say, you can actually get some data in a very quick, easy to understand method for you and for your clients, so that one, you can determine where do you want to take that first step in your diagnostic or repair process, or even more importantly, what should I be charging this person for the next 2 or 3 hours worth of work I'm about to get into. So that was really how we came up with the Inform, and again, that tries to analyze the machine in about 8 to 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, and it is lightning fast. I will say that. So Alex, from your perspective, as far as obviously this is kind of your baby, and it's kind of the things that you really get excited about. But what are some of the things that you look at from your perspective that this can help the end user, and not the end user, but your customer, obviously, they can help their end user with a problem?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue to talk about Inform, because it's one of my favorite parts, because it's so fast at getting you a bunch of information quickly. So I'll give you some little nuggets on some of the more technical aspects of some of the things you can get from it. So the idea of Inform is also to get all this information that's all over the operating system, that's in different applications. So that way you don't have to go run 15, 16 utilities to get this data, which is obviously going to take time. And it's doing this all right away, and presenting it in a way that makes sense to you. So we do things like get the full operating system details, so the actual version, the build number, the product key, and if the hardware supports it, the embedded firmware product key as well. So that way, if you're having to reinstall Windows later on down the line, you can grab that, use it the tool set without having to launch a third-party application. It can tell you how many available RAM slots are there. So without even having to take the computer apart, you can tell right away, oh, I've got a couple of RAM slots that are available. So that might be an upsell opportunity right there. You didn't have to go look up the model on the manufacturer's website. We can tell you that right away. We do other cool stuff, like we will give you not really a truncated view, but a targeted view on application hangs and application crashes in Event Viewer. So that way you don't have to open up Event Viewer, try to apply a bunch of filters, go through a bunch of different event logs to try to find the problems. We'll actually find those for you, and you can click with one button, just click a link, it'll open up Event Viewer with all that stuff filtered down for you. So that way you're not having to dig through a sea of benign information to find the actual problems. It actually presents them to you right away, saving you a bunch of time. And that's kind of some of the cool stuff that I like with Inform. And one thing that we made that was more of I'd call it a discovery tool, is kind of the power on history of the system. So what we found out is that when it comes to boot stuff inside of Windows, Windows does it saves how long it took to boot. It saves what caused a reboot or a shutdown, and it saves it in multiple different places. And so we took all that information and brought it together and put it into a view so you can kind of get more information from that. So you can see how long has this computer session been running for, how long it took to get to boot into the session, and the last time it shut down, what was the reason for that shutdown? And it categorizes it for weeks and weeks and weeks. So you can actually kind of see a past kind of the system. And what we're seeing technicians use that for is to maybe help kind of reinforce that symptom from a customer that's like, hey, my computer shuts down all the time, or randomly reboots, where you can look here and kind of see, what is that true? Is that what's actually happening? And maybe even point out what's causing that to happen. And alternatively, we've also seen people looking at the actual boot time that comes up and kind of use that as a post-op kind of component to say, when you brought this in here, remember when we looked at the boot history, it said your machine was taking, 2.5 minutes to boot. Now that I've cleaned it all up, look, it's only taken, 60 seconds to boot up or 30 seconds to boot up. So we've made this huge impact to the experience, and you can do that directly from the tool set.
I'll tell you the other thing too is what I really like about it is, like you've said, it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, and some of these programs out there, they will get so in depth, and it's like, what am I looking at? Things like you were just talking about the event viewer. Well, how many times do we go into that to try to diagnose a problem? And you've got the event viewer logs every darn thing that happens in Windows, whether you want it to or not. I don't understand why. It's like, I don't need all this information. Just tell me when something's like really wrong, not kind of, sort of, hey, we had a power state and so, yeah, okay. But anyways, so yeah, I really like that aspect of the tech bench and what it can do, and just the easy to read format is it helps. And plus, I think, like you said, the other part of that is you can actually turn that laptop or computer screen around or whatever and show the customer, go, here's what we're looking at. And they can see, hey, I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm actually giving you a diagnostic. One of the things that I'm looking forward in the future, and here's the thing, some of the things you're talking about on there, even though I own the tool set or tech bench, yeah, I don't know some of the things that it can do apparently. So definitely need to dive into that more. I think being a business owner, it is hard, especially with all the different hats and things that I wear, to be able to go in and test this stuff all the time and do the things that I want to do. So, but I'm going to have an opportunity to train a couple of my children that are still in the house with me and my wife, because they want to help kind of do the triage, like Michael was talking about, as far as helping me at a level where they can get that information, kind of parse the information. Then I can come in, if it's a real deep dive, we got to get into something, then I can pick up from there. But it saves me that extra time too, of having to do that. So, along with logging information and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool.
That'd be interesting to see how they see the information and kind of address the system issues. Would love to hear what their feedback is.
Okay. We're going to be working on that here at the beginning of the year. So it's one of the things that they want to get in there and kind of help Dad out.
Nice.
So, all right. So Michael, now, so obviously is there anything else as far as the tech bench that we haven't covered as of yet, or Alex, that people kind of need to know about? And again, hey, you need to try it out. Here's the bottom line. Obviously we're going to have links, and, you guys do I believe it's a 15-day free trial to check it out. So it's a no-brainer. You know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. When you go to try it out, if you've never used it before and you're going to trial it, go ahead and get some systems that you've got, maybe customer systems or whatever. Go ahead and start testing them on the real deal. Get a handful of machines in and, do the free trial, throw that stuff on there and see how it can help you in your business, because having a tool and using a tool are two different things. So you got to be able to use that tool. And a lot of times we're all, hey, quick, there's a nice shiny thing, I got that. And I, like myself, don't use it to the full extent. So I'm going to remedy that problem. Is there anything else that we haven't really touched on as far as the tech bench, or any things that you see from the industry of what people are saying, what people's, interests are as far as the tech bench and what they're getting out of it?
Yeah, one of the big challenges for us is we're Malwarebytes. So when we present people with a tool set, the first thought is it's going to be a malware-based tool set. It's going to do some analysis, maybe some forensics, maybe it's going to be a portable scanner of Malwarebytes, or maybe an ADW cleaner or our new anti-bundleware. it's going to be all of that, of course. One of the biggest hurdles we have is that we do so much more. We actually think our issue scanner, which is light hardware and Windows analysis, we actually think that's the most powerful feature. And what usually happens is people run it and go, wow, this is not malware based. That's interesting. And then they run it on a clean system or their system. And the cool part of the tool is it doesn't tell you a whole bunch of noise kind of on the system if everything's good. Where it really, really shines is when something is broken, like you've got 6 or 7 different pieces of data that are telling you the hard drive is bad, but you would need 6 or 7 different tools to gather all of that and then put it all together. When you see that kind of Christmas tree light up, that's where the magic happens. You go, wow, this actually is driving value, and do that 2 or 3 times and you've paid for the tool set in those 2 or 3 service calls.
Absolutely. Alex, any other things you want to dive into on the tech bench?
No, he actually kind of hit on the one I was going to mention, which is kind of the issue scanner. Specifically kind of the part he talked about there. That's really interesting that we've seen a lot of technicians not notice right away, which is that we actually scan for hard disk failure. So we not only look at the actual like event logs for disk.sys and ntfs.sys to see if those errors are happening, but we actually check for the actual smart attribute errors. So we actually will read the smart table of the actual hard drive and dive to another level deeper and looking for a failing hard drive. And it does that within a matter of seconds. So that's something that kind of goes unnoticed. The second thing I wanted to mention is something that very similar to what Sherwood mentioned there, which is sometimes, people don't expect Malwarebytes to do something that might be a little bit outside of the malware realm. If you're an on-site technician, you might need to do something like a network survey. And in our Inform utility, we actually have a network devices discovery utility that will actually scan your local network and show you all the local network devices like your router, your printer, TV, gaming systems, whatever's connected to the local network. And if the device has a web GUI, we'll also offer the ability to quickly launch the web browser and configure that device. So something that's a little bit different that we've added to the tool set that's there for someone that needs to do something that's more of an on-site situation. So lots of cool
that's
stuff.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool. All right, I'm going to take a quick side tangent because I just noticed this in the chat room and I find these things funny. Somebody said child labor, and somebody said don't incriminate yourself, Jeff. That was John and Greg. Anyways, I'm going to tell a short story. So few years ago, we're out in front of the house, all 5 kids, myself, my wife, and 10 yards of mulch. And all of us are out there, all 7 of us. And kids are, moving the mulch into barrels, and we're moving it and putting it all over our property and all that kind of stuff. Guy walks by, literally stops, looks at all of us and goes, he's looking around. He goes, you don't see this that often. I said, I tell the kids, I said, it's just like the Bible says, you don't work, you don't eat. He found that quite humorous and went on his way. But no, we've always been a family of, working together and doing things together. And, especially my older kids didn't really want to learn so much the computer stuff, but the younger kids spending all their time on YouTube watching funny videos and whatnot, and people doing other things. They are actually interested in the process. And so it'll be interesting. All right. So let's go ahead and let's continue on. Let's take a quick break real quick, and then we will get into the Malwarebytes endpoint protection, which we also said we're going to talk about. Our show today is brought to you by Reclaim Me Pro, a specially tailored data recovery toolkit for data recovery technicians, both beginners and experts, which is cool. Recovers data from multiple file systems, including REFS, BTRFS, and VMFS. It can find your lost partitions. That's the last thing you want to do, is lose a partition. They're a pain to get back. This will find them, and so you can see what is in that partition. Recovers data from various raids, from RAID 0 to RAID 6. In today's day and age, when everybody's using RAID for everything, this is definitely something you want to have, because you've got to have something that's going to put all that information into a readable, understandable way so you can get that data back for your customers. It reads most partitioning schemes from Microsoft LDM to Linux LVM. There's a wide range of supported NAS models, including Drobo devices. Obviously, Drobos are a big NAS device out there, but you can get back your information from all these systems with their type of RAID that they do, because they're not all the same. Powerful RAID recovery and RAID analysis tools for complex RAID recovery. Definitely want that. And comprehensive technical support, including data recovery training, which is your key to understanding partitions, file systems, and RAID recovery. If you don't understand about any of these things, you need to basically teach yourself or have somebody that can give you the information. There's a lot of information out there. They've written books on this stuff. They've worked with this stuff for years. So this is definitely an outfit that you want to go to. Try it free for 14 days over at reclaim-me-pro.com. Again, you get a data recovery in that you got to, obviously what you're going to do is you're going to make an image first, right? That's the very first thing you're going to do. And then you're going to go ahead and take that image and you're going to throw it in this program and let it chunk on it and get the data out. So you definitely don't want to ruin that drive or anything like that. But that's the simple parts of it. And when you decide to purchase software, use the offer code PODNUTS for a 50% discount. Now, this is a very powerful piece of software and it does a lot of things. So if data recovery is something that you're getting on a regular basis, definitely check it out. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Malwarebytes endpoint protection. Michael, I'm going to shoot it off to you first because, again, the man with many words.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so we'll switch gears here a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, what we're trying to do here at Malwarebytes is really kind of mature our business line. So back in the day, some tools. A little bit less back in the day, we had a kind of a great set of the original tech bench, some proactive solutions both for your home and for your business, and we've got kind of a mess going on. And so what we've been doing over the last year to year and a half is really trying to clean up our product offerings. And the one Alex will dive into here is our endpoint protection. So think of that as our first kind of journey into cloud, into kind of some remote management. Early next year, you're going to hear some more MSP specific features. So if you look at the scale, we've got EP way over here that's kind of got enterprise, large business features. We've got our regular Malwarebytes 3 over here. And in between, we're trying to get a whole bunch of different kind of offerings from both of those platforms that serve specifically your community, whether it's the MSP, whether it's some light contract management, maybe it's residential management, or even break fix. And I'll flip it to Alex, and he'll get into some of the details of our endpoint protection.
Yes, I definitely will. So for the Malwarebytes endpoint protection, I'll give just a little bit of backstory of where this product came from. So it was originally designed as more of the large enterprise, large single business entity type of solution. It was known as Malwarebytes endpoint security, and it required to have your own kind of server to manage the actual endpoint agent software. So obviously everything is really kind of moving to the cloud, and we had our new Malwarebytes 3 product released on Windows, which included all of our multiple different products that we had before. So it included, our anti-ransomware, anti-exploit, and they wanted to have a product for business that kind of added the Malwarebytes 3 for Windows kind of structure, but while also being cloud managed, so kind of getting prepared for the future. And so that's what Malwarebytes endpoint protection is. So it's that very powerful standard, Malwarebytes for Windows product, but it's managed from a web-based console. Primarily designed for enterprises or single business entities, but it really makes it easy to kind of deploy and manage on multiple different endpoints. So it could be something as small as, a company with 50 endpoints to something as large as multiple thousands of endpoints. And you can, take those endpoints and put them into little groups if you want to. You can apply different policies to them so that, this machine is part of the sales team, operations team. So they have a different set of scan settings, a different set of protection settings, and you can do all that from a cloud console. And on the endpoint side, you can make it, completely invisible to the end user so they don't even know that it's running, or you can have like a minimal UI that runs in the tray. And if the end user wants to, they can run a manual scan. So you can kind of control all those features directly from the cloud. On top of that, you get detailed reports, you get detailed graphs, notifications. So that way, if something gets infected, you as the IT admin can get informed about it so you can do some sort of action on it. You can tell it whether or not you want it to do automatic remediation or manual remediation, all types of powerful capabilities like that. And recently we added things like single sign-on. So if you need to utilize some sort of single sign-on system, we allow you to do that. You can also have multiple role-based accounts now. so that those accounts can have different levels of access to the cloud console. So that way there's greater type of control on it. And on top of all that, we made it extremely easy for IT admins to deploy. So we do it as easy as just giving you the package that's specific to your console so that you can download it, deploy it however you want to using whatever existing system you want. We also give you a in-depth deployment tool. So if you want something that kind of holds your hand in deployment, we give you that as well. Plus, we also give you details on how you can deploy it via Active Directory. So that way you can deploy the software however you see fit and whatever works for the business environment that you're in. And that's kind of what Malwarebytes endpoint protection is. It's basically the Malwarebytes for Windows 3, but you can control it via the cloud.
That is really cool. And I'll tell you, one of the arguments out there is always, do I tell my customer, do I show my customer what I'm doing, or do I not, as far as having an icon available, or and it's in most companies are either or. They're not both. Hey, I can turn this icon on, I can turn this icon off. That, to me, right there, that's a winner in my book, because that's one of the things where, depending on how you run your business, you might have to do things a little bit differently, or even per customer, you might have the ability to, change that stuff. So that's very good.
Yeah, it was actually one of the first pieces of feedback we had, because when we were designing the product, we had heard overwhelming feedback of, we don't want the end user to see anything. We don't want to see anything. So we first launched it that way. And it was the first bit of feedback was, hey, I've got some users that they feel all warm and fuzzy inside when they see the little logo. And so we made sure to add that as quickly as possible. And kind of like what you said, then we found out that there is, sometimes it wasn't like the entire organization wanted that, but the CEO wanted to see the logo, because he paid the bill to get this protection. So he wants to see the logo. And then you had the slightly more technical user that's like, hey, I want to be able to run a scan whenever I want. So we added that feature. And I know just last week we added the ability to show shortcuts to the Malwarebytes endpoint protection on the desktop and in the start menu too. So another layer of customization to that, kind of exposing that it's actually there on the client side. So
I'm with you. You got to give choice out there, and that's what I like, and that's what you guys are listening to and you're doing, because I'm on the camp of, I don't want my customers to see anything. Listen, I'll let you know when there's a problem. When there's not a problem, or when there's a problem, we'll take care of it. And if it becomes a really big problem, you'll probably know about it. But most cases, you're not going to know about it. I'll send you a report at the end of the month, and that's just the way it is. If you don't like it, Mr. or Mrs. CEO, I don't care, because I'm not making your product, but I'm taking care of your IT. That's what I do. Anyways, no, that's good. I like that. I like the again, you're listening to the community and going. Now, obviously, I've said this for years, and everybody that knows me knows that I always say, look, software is hard. It's not easy to do. And Alex, I'm sure you can attest to that, Michael. But the reality is, when you're listening to the community and you're doing the things that you need to do to make it better and to make it to where more people can use it, hey, that's a win in my book. All right. So you were going to say something, Alex?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, thank you for letting us know that we listen, and we try to pride ourselves in doing that. And it's probably because, a lot of us at Malwarebytes have that technician background, and, we've worked for companies where, our voices weren't heard all the time. And so, like, when we hear people, whether it's a complaint or it's something they want to see, we really do listen to what the community says. We take it to heart, because we want to make the best product out there, right? And we're going to do everything we possibly can to make that happen. And I just wanted to just maybe think about the chat room right now, where someone had asked about whether or not we had password protection on the tool set. And it's because I could tell that they've used the tool set in the past. Well, we had heard that feedback, and we did add that feature to our latest release. So for people who haven't played with the tool set or have played with it in the past and they wanted some sort of password protection, we added it. And it was all based off of feedback. So if people do have problems with their products, or they see, opportunities, let us know, because we're going to act on them and we're going to make a change. We're going to make it right.
That's good. Yeah, a lot of people like that ability to have that, product, to be able to set it on a customer's machine and lock that thing down. So when they got a remote in and manage it, they're not having to download anything or do anything. They can go in there, put in the password, boom, run the tool set, and done. They get their piece of information right away. Again, a time-saving feature, and that's how a lot of us do our business. So, Michael, from your standpoint, as far as the endpoint protection and what it can do for the customers, what are some of the things that that you look at when you think about this product?
Yeah, so what we've been hearing over the last specifically year and a half to 2 years is, and this is not new, but it's becoming, I would say, much more prevalent. It's the how do I take my break fix business and mature some, all, maybe none of it into some sort of managed product, and whether that's you're selling Sherwood's PC repair subscription service, and I have no RMM tools or any sort of automation helping, and it's just kind of my yearly service that I'm selling, all the way up to I'm actually trying to become an MSP. I'm selling off my break fix. I'm selling off my brick and mortar. What we really think EP is there for is those that want to make that next kind of step into some sort of managed something. And what's really cool about this, as well as some of the command line features that we put into the tool set, is you can kind of take bits and pieces of your Malwarebytes product line with us, and you can actually start automating some of that in your business when you're ready to go. One of the biggest failures I see is a shop that says, I've got 80% of my business, it's residential, and it's break fix, and I want to become an MSP. And they try to do it in one big fell swoop, and it's like, well, I'm just going to go out and get a bunch of business clients, replace that 80% of my bottom line, and I'm going to automate all of it, and I'm going to make an MSP. And I'm like, okay, time out. But why don't we try 5 of those customers, just 5%, and see what we can do, and maybe get an RMM, maybe get a backup solution, maybe get Office 365, and maybe Malwarebytes is one of those pieces of that stack that they're trying to do. But that's what gets me really excited, is you can take a component of your Malwarebytes product line and try to bring it into the non-break fix world if that's the route you're going.
On a side note, let me give a little. Listen, kids, the way it is out there, most of your business clients will come through your break fix clients. So that's kind of the way it works. And yes, you will transform some of your business to that managed services, because recurring revenue is where it's at, and it's very important to keep a live and stable business. But it's not going to be, the days of, can you go door to door? Can you hire marketing to go out there and chase businesses that probably already have outside IT, internal IT? Yeah, sure you can. But let me tell you the way the world works, mostly by word of mouth. And so when you fix somebody's computer that a laptop that they use at home all the time, you go, hey, do you do business? Yeah, I do that. So here's a perfect way for you to get in and manage that and give them that endpoint protection so that they can, stay safer. Obviously, it's better to be proactive, because as we talked about before, a lot of times on this show, I've said for years, people really, they will let their computer get to such a state where it's horrible and it's basically not working. And it's not until the point that, wait a minute, my Google Chrome is not working. And I went over to Internet Explorer, and now Internet Explorer is not working. Something's blocking it out. And can you help me? Well, how long has it been like this? Well, it's been like this 6, 8 months. You're like, you could have came to me earlier. We could have had this taken care of and done something proactive versus waiting till the last second. So the endpoint protection is a perfect way to do that. And I feel it is an important part of your arsenal to have in order to do, you're going to have to do recurring services, I think, because it just makes sense, especially for business clients or even residential clients nowadays. They need to be protected too. And probably even more so, business clients a lot of times are so locked down. You got to do something for those residentials that are willing to pay for it. And again, the way I sell a lot of my residential managed services is I basically tell them, listen, do you want your computer to work just like when you brought it home from the store? Actually, it'll probably work better. But if you want it to work in that way, not slowly degrade over time, because I've downloaded this, that, or the other, and it's got its sisters, brothers, uncles, piece of malware attached to it, and pups, potentially unwanted programs. That was who came up with that name, anyways.
That was what I like to call the third wave of virus and malware. So we had viruses, which were the big scary ones that McAfee, love him or hate him, he really helped build our industry. He, showed the way that it was coming. So you had viruses, and there's all sorts of subcategories behind that. And then you had the malware, spyware, adware in the early 2000s. And then you had pums and pups, in the 2009 to 2012 arena. And the fourth one we think is bundleware. And that's where you get further and further away from a traditional virus that's very legally clean. What you can categorize a virus versus malware versus pums and pubs versus bundleware is totally off the map. And is bundleware OneDrive? Is bundleware, Adobe? Is bundleware this, that, or the other? It'll be to be determined, but bundleware we think is the next evolution. I don't know who coined pum and pub, to answer your question.
From me, it sounds like it came from kind of a legal standpoint of somebody didn't want to say, we wanted to say it's potentially unwanted.
Oh,
no, we're gonna tell you, it should just be unwanted.
Yeah.
Nobody should be running this on their machine. It's doing them no good. But yeah, from a legal standpoint, it's hard because they are legit to a certain extent. I just, well, going back to that too, Microsoft, I mean, I can't believe if you install Windows 10 Pro on a machine, I'll do a fresh install. I can't believe all the apps and things that I have to uninstall. Yeah, okay, I might play Candy Crush on my phone. I'm not confirming or denying that, but I'm just saying. But I'm definitely not going to play it on my desktop.
I thought you were a desktop gamer.
I am a desktop gamer. I don't actually play Candy Crush, but I thought it was funny. No, I play stupid games that John Dubinsky gets me into, like, Clan of Clans or whatever that stupid game.
Awesome.
And it's stupid because you sit there, and I've spent so much money in the beginning that I'm at the point where I go, I refuse to spend any of my hard-earned cash on this. I'm just going to go slow, and it's going to build up over the next 10 years. In 6 months, John and his group will be on to something else anyways.
Yep.
So, but thanks for that, Michael. So going back to the endpoint protection, obviously there's a lot of things that it can do for us. So, Alex, you want to talk about some of the things that people are looking at when it comes to that endpoint protection?
Yeah. So the kind of the idea of endpoint protection, I was mentioning this earlier, it kind of gives you a cloud managed version of the Malwarebytes 3 engine. So what I mean by that is that it's going to give you the ability to install an agent that then is going to give you access to our real-time anti-malware protection engine, which is in our flagship product. It's going to have web traffic protection. So that way, if there's any sort of malicious web traffic happening, it can actually block that. It's got our signatureless anti-exploit. So that way, if a piece of malware is trying to get onto a system through either an application exploit or even an operating system-based exploit, we stop that execution from happening. It also has our anti-ransomware engine, also signatureless. So it will look for ransomware-like behavior and kind of stop it in its tracks. And then another kind of level or layer that's on there as well is what we call our anomalous process detection engine, which is kind of like a machine learning type of technology. It's cloud powered, but since the rest of the product is cloud based, it works out real well. And so it tries to find malware that's more in the 0-day category, so stuff we haven't seen before, but we can kind of tell based off of its behavior and a couple of other trade secrets. We can identify that it's probably a malicious process and either stop it from doing what it's doing or terminate it. And you kind of get all those different layers of protection in the base endpoint protection product. Something that I do want to mention is I wouldn't say a new version, but there's kind of an extension to the endpoint protection product category where we've added some new features, and we call it endpoint protection and response. And what that does is it goes just a little bit further as far as protecting endpoints. So it does something really cool called endpoint isolation. So if you pay for this tier, you can actually isolate an endpoint once it gets infected. And what I mean by that is it will actually kind of lock the computer, and they'll get the end user will get a screen that says, "Hey, we've detected a bad malware infection, something that's malicious or suspicious, and we're stopping you from continuing this." And it's because we want to, for companies that have really sensitive data and an endpoint gets into a really bad situation, we want to stop it from spreading. We want to stop that user from doing the bad thing that they're doing. And so you can do that with the endpoint protection response version of that platform. And that platform also adds a ransomware rollback feature. And so what that means is that if we do detect a ransomware attack, we'll actually allow you to roll back files that were starting to be encrypted by it once we identify the activity has started. And then one other kind of cool thing it does is a thing called Flight Recorder, what will give you detailed insights of file access, network access, process access, registry access. So that way, if you want to get really into the weeds of trying to see, is there something kind of malicious going on this endpoint that's 0-day based, you can do that with the Flight Recorder, because it kind of saves all that stuff. So
Okay.
those are some of the cool things that you get with endpoint protection and endpoint protection response. And as far as like, why would someone want to go this route as far as going with this, these products? We're primarily seeing it from, businesses and enterprises and even MSPs that want to provide a Malwarebytes product that they manage, that they control, that kind of fits the needs and the requirements of the business that they're supporting. And yeah, so we have different layers of protection and different types of experiences that kind of fit all those different needs.
That is great. Now, Michael, I want to ask you a question. And this is one of those things that many people have talked about over time is, and Malwarebytes has said this since their last version, but basically it's a standalone device, that a piece of software that can run in the background. But what the beautiful part about it is you can run it with Windows Defender, which is already built into your Windows machine, or it doesn't have to. It can, Malwarebytes can run on its own. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've, traditionally been a company that we've always said we've been kind of a secondary scanner, in the early days. And then we kind of became the primary malware scanner. And then with the acquisitions, on both the Mac side and obviously the Windows side with ADW Cleaner, JRT, we've really become kind of the de facto, at least malware scanner. And during that entire time, our protection agent, we've tried to essentially play nice with the other either larger AVs that were much more complex. We're talking firewall, we're talking internet securities back in the day when those were just these behemoth projects that turned into just slowing down the system. And we always kind of said, hey, we want to be the sidekick, or at least able to play in that arena, because we just never really wanted to go that traditional AV route. We saw it as not as a dying element, but definitely not the primary one that we wanted to focus on. Our company was born in the malware world, good 10, 15 years after viruses were invented, if you will. And then we really kind of grew up in the PUM and PUP world. And now we're in this just much different category than we were in, 20 years ago when, XP started coming onto the scene. And we're still, stating that we can run alongside, kind of the traditional AVs, but also if you want to run us alone, we do feel that it's adequate enough to serve your stack. Now, I think it would be pretty risky for anybody just to go, oh, I'm just going to run a Norton, or just run a Kaspersky, or just run whatever AV, or just run Malwarebytes. I think that's a completely stupid idea. You definitely need to have some sort of stack in there, whether it's customer education, whether it's a password manager, whether it's a browser blocker. You need other elements inside of your kind of security world to make sure that you're secure. So people who say, can Malwarebytes run on its own? Absolutely. But you definitely need to have some other things on the machine that might not be AV or anti-malware specific.
That's great. And I like what you say about that as far as running as a stack, because obviously the more layers of protection that you have on a system, the better off you are. And the point of making it where you guys can run with something else just makes sense. And like I said, Malwarebytes is so light and just it's functional. In a lot of times with its protections, just stopping stuff from coming in. Not that I'm doing anything nefarious here, but my customers are stupid. Oh, I said that out loud. Sorry. The reality. And I forgot where I was going with that. So anyways, yeah, so that's good to have that support there in that side by side. And I totally lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with that, and the train ran off the tracks, people. I don't know what happens. It sucks getting old.
We'll be here when you get back on track.
Yeah. So anyways, from the endpoint protection, obviously you guys got a lot of things going on there. It's this powerful tool that will do a lot. It sounds like a lot of cool things I didn't even know about. Again, we always learn something new. In cloud managed, it helps you, mitigate the problems before they become a problem. And man, that locking down the computer thing, that is slick. I like that. So it's good stuff. All right. So is there anything else that we haven't touched on from this standpoint? Because I totally forgot where I was going with that. But anyways, Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you guys want to touch on when we're talking about Malwarebytes or the endpoint protection or the tech bench at this point?
There's one thing I was gonna just kind of make clear here. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat room at the same time. Some people are starting to ask around. It sounds like RMM stuff and MSP stuff, and I do want to make mention that we're starting to do some work in that category, especially on the traditional Malwarebytes 3 client side with some RMM vendors. But having a much more, I would say, kind of in between product that meets the goals of a true MSP, you're going to start seeing that over the next year. And I know Sherwood kind of mentioned that towards the beginning, but I still want to kind of reiterate that it's something that we are working on, and that you'll see more offerings and more capabilities that are going to be MSP friendly coming from Malwarebytes.
Very good. And thank you. I just remember what I was going to talk about. So one of the things that I've not understood, and maybe you fine gentlemen here can explain this to me. So in the past, and we have all kinds of products do this, and I get it. And I don't think your product does. I'm not sure, but one of the things that, and especially other antivirus vendors, they will have a pop-up come up and tell the customer something. Even just using regular Malwarebytes or whatever. Now, obviously, probably the endpoint protection doesn't do that. But in what universe does it make sense when we tell our customers all the time, don't click on the pop-ups, don't click on the pop-ups, and yet there are pop-ups for deals and this and that, or even just friendly information. But again, you've got to click on it to see the whole article, and we're telling our customers, don't do that. So what's your guys' stance on that?
Oh, this one's such a difficult one. So I'll share two things. So the first is I think some of the, we talked about this a little bit with, clicking on kind of the bad links, or coming up with your password strategies, or the old, is a check more secure than in buying things on the internet? And, in the 90s, I think there was this, we'll call it a PSA that was sent out to at least my mother's generation and my grandmother about not clicking on links. Your password has to be this type of, complexity. Don't buy things on the internet because it's scary. And a lot of those have changed. But in order for my mom to get kind of current, she knows virus is bad. She knows pop-ups are bad. She knows like 2 or 3 things that she kind of, kept in the top of her mind. And everything that happens to her is a virus, as you guys know. And everything that comes to her, she's, not clicking on. She doesn't open emails from me. She doesn't answer phone calls from me. So I think there's a further re-education of what's happening out there. And it's unfortunate because the second point is a lot of these really good delivery vehicles like in-app notifications, they work great inside the iOS platform because people know that I should get a notification of my iOS application and it works great, et cetera, et cetera. But a pop-up on the Windows machine, don't touch it, never engage with it. So I think we're going to have a definite challenge on our hand of using these traditional kind of communication mediums to do anything legal, because the bad guys have basically made it not so good for us good guys.
Okay. And Alex, any thoughts on that?
I think he did it pretty good justice there. I mean, I'm traditionally not a huge fan of pop-ups, but there's definitely going to be times, especially when we're where people need to be educated on something, or they need to be told, hey, we need some sort of action taken. Sometimes notifications are going to happen, but like you said, we've kind of trained customers for so long that's like, don't click pop-ups, because they've come from the web browser and stuff like that, and they take that to heart to mean anything that pops up on the screen that I didn't start is bad. And it's definitely going to be a difficult place to kind of play in. And very similar to what Sherwood said, in the mobile world, it's the exact opposite. You're used to seeing pop-ups in your phone and messages that you click on, and yeah, so it's unique.
I'll be honest with you, I mean, everybody does it, right? Microsoft does it. They've got notification. Now, again, granted, you turn on a lot of these notifications. And I guess from that standpoint and this is what I would say is broad strokes, is I would say give the customer the choice, to, not the end user, but obviously your customers that are reselling the products, give them the choice to be able to turn this information on or off depending on their particular client or their particular clientele. That's my thoughts. All right. Anybody got any other lasting thoughts before we head on out of here? Everybody good?
I'm good. Sherwood, are you good?
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Oh, no problem. It's always enjoyable to talk to you guys. and learn things. And this is why I do the show, because I'm always learning something. I'm not the one always up here teaching, but learning new things about what's going on in the marketplace, and what we can do to help our customers be better and better protected, obviously. So I'm going to start off with Alex. If you want to give, we're going to have the links for Malwarebytes Tech Bench, and we'll also have the links for the endpoint protection and malwarebytes.com. All that good stuff will be in the show notes. But Alex, would you like to give any information where people, if they want to reach out to you, ask you a question, find out an answer? Because I know, and the reason I ask you guys this is because I know you guys are very forthcoming in the community. You let people reach out to you, you let people talk to you, and you actually come back with great answers to help alleviate problems or this or that or the other.
Yeah. So contacting us, easiest way is usually email. My email address is asmith@malwarebytes.com. And then Michael, who's with me today, msherwood@malwarebytes.com. That's our email addresses. And if you don't want to talk directly to us, you can send an email to our Teams box, which is techbench@malwarebytes.com. And we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about the products we talked about today. Or if you just, you've used Malwarebytes in the past and you want to provide some feedback, just let us know. We're available. And we're always open to feedback. And for anyone that ends up playing with the tool set, if you want a demo or something, let me know. I'll be more than happy to set up some time. We can do a live demo via Zoom. I can walk through using the tool set, all the technical ins and outs. I'm available for you. So
that's cool. I'm glad you said that, because I'll probably hit you up one of these days.
All right. I look forward to it.
I tend to think of myself as a fairly intelligent person, but sometimes it's easier when somebody that knows the ins and outs of what they're doing with this particular tool set, they can kind of walk you through the paces a little bit easier, and you go, "Oh, I see that now. That makes perfect sense." So, I'm the guy that I kind of need that hands-on showing. Yeah, show me hands-on, and then let me play around with it. So that's good. All right. So appreciate you guys coming out again, as always. And again, we'll have all the other links. Michael, any lasting words for you?
No, just a question for Alex. Who trained you how to fix computers?
That's an interesting story. So it depends on before I met Sherwood or after I met Sherwood.
Oh.
So there's a BS period or AS period. So yeah, so I would say properly. You did. You taught me how to do it properly many years ago. What was that? 2004? Yep. 2003? Yeah, 2004 when we first met at a training, and you taught me the right way to do networking and the right way to do an operating system repair, and gave me a really good process to work off of. So it's because of you I'm here.
Just wanted that documented for all the internet to see.
That's awesome. Apparently he didn't like my remark earlier about him not being as geeky. I just meant as far as gaming, man. It's all good. And so, Michael, to that point, though, I mean, come on. You work for Best Buy. Didn't you just have to throw in a disc and walk away?
Funny, myself and our lead developer here, we created that disc that you just threw in.
Oh, no, not nice. Yeah, I guess I knew that. I knew that. So, but I mean, obviously, there's a lot of knowledge that come from the things that you guys have done. And I noticed the one thing when you were talking about how customers react to us, you're saying the same exact things that customers say. You're like, these guys are in the industry, and they put their money where their mouth is, because they've been doing it for such a long time. And that's what makes it great, is you guys being invested in the people in the community, and in just understanding the things we're going through, because you guys have been there, done that. So that's kind of a cool thing. Before we get on out of here, I want to take a quick second. And if you would like to support this awesome content that we bring you almost every week, except when I get busy or, work, things like that, or lose power, etc. It's been a few weeks since we've had a show, but generally every week, go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank all of our current Patreon supporters for your continued support. And one of the things that will do you is it's $1 a show, $4 or $5 a month. Basically, what that will do for you is that will get you into the secret Facebook group, where you can be with 97 other like-minded individuals sharing information in a safe environment where people can, share the things that they're going through and not be ridiculed. Like, what are you doing in this thing, kid? What's going on? We don't treat people like that. And my bouncers, Paco LeBron and John Dubinsky, if you get out of line, they'll just boot you out of the group. No questions asked. They don't even have to ask me. They just go, boop, you're out. But we haven't had that happen yet. And we've had a great group for the last year and a quarter. So appreciate all the people that are a part of that. But yeah, go over to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. Like I said, $4 or $5 a month, and just, skip a coffee if you have to. Those are $4 or $5, aren't they? All right. Come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnets.com/CRP live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. We have a lot of things going on in there. You can send an email to podnets@podnets.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. And we'll play your lovely voice right next to ours. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.